Sekeres and Price for Wednesday, December 31st, 2025. A presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Matt Sekeres alongside Jeff Paterson sitting in for Blake Price today, the host of RinkWide Vancouver, our Canucks reporter, four-time Juno Award winner. Hadn't said that in a while. Mike Rogerson hitting switches and conducting things before he goes home to celebrate the new year with his Junos. How are you?
I'm good. This is it. Eh?
This is it.
For 2025.
I can't believe it. Next year will be 5 years in this format here, Jeff. It's unbelievable.
Now we're just about a month away from that fateful day 5 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I remember that day. Hard to forget.
We all
I get asked about that day a lot.
Yeah.
In fact, at the latest watch party at Greta, somebody asked me, wanted to know the mechanics of that day. Where was I when I heard, all that thing. Anyways, glad to be with you here in the digital space on our own. We'll start with the daily poll question. Are the Canucks in a better situation if they had chosen Bo Horvat over JT Miller? You can vote yes, you can vote no. Do so at the Sekeres and Price X and YouTube channels. The context here, Bo Horvat is a Canadian Olympian. One of the most difficult rep teams to make the world over. And you could say this really about every Canadian Olympic team, but one of the greatest, if not the single greatest collection of forwards ever assembled. And Bo Horvat is one of 14. First, just your impressions on Bo making this team before we get to the poll.
Delighted. He was one of the guys that I really was focusing on. There were other areas. Goaltending's obviously a hot button issue in this country, but for me, and having watched Bo from his inception in the National Hockey League here and watching his development, becoming captain of the Vancouver Canucks and all that kind of stuff, I've always had time for Bo Horvat. I've had an affinity for Bo Horvat, just a good guy all around. I wondered if his penalty-killing utility, though, was going to work against him. I thought that might be the deciding factor that would keep him off this roster. So he's there, and good on him. And excited to see what he'll do in this sort of environment.
It was January 30th, 2023. The Vancouver Canucks traded their then-captain Bo Horvat to the New York Islanders for forward Anthony Beauvillier, prospect forward Atu Ratu, who we now know, and a conditional 2023 first-round pick. It was a declaration from then new president of hockey operations, Jim Rutherford, and his deputy, Patrick Alvin, that they were going to put their own stamp on the franchise. Of course, they had Bo Horvat and JT Miller both counting down to unrestricted free agency. It was going to be difficult to keep both players. They chose Miller. He was going to be their culture carrier. He was the better all-around offensive player. He was not saddled with the baggage of terrible Canucks seasons and being the captain presiding over that room. They chose poorly. My answer to the poll question is yes. I understand the net proceeds of the Bo Horvat trade delivered Philip Roenick, and who knows, maybe they'd still be hunting for that elusive top-pair right-side defenseman, Jeff. But I think, needless to say, you cut off the JT Miller, Elias Pettersson dressing room drama at the pass, and who knows, maybe even the next captain of the Canucks, Quinn Hughes, is still a member of the club right now if they choose Horvat over Miller.
Yeah, I think they're in a better situation. I just don't know how much better because, as we've seen, this collection of assembled talent just isn't anywhere good enough. Now, less drama for sure, and maybe that just fosters a better environment. As you said, maybe it's enough to keep Quinn Hughes interested at the very least in staying. So who knows, parallel universe. But yeah, I think without a doubt they're in a better situation, but I still think they have a ton of fish to fry, as they say.
I got to say, I'm a little surprised Horvat made this team. When I put out my picks last night on social, he was not a part of it. And look, the reports over the last couple of days were positive, so I guess I had started wrapping my head around Bo being on this team. In terms of the positives and why you would take a player like Bo Horvat, first of all, I mean, the character is A++, right? Like, you know that if Bo Horvat is your 14th forward and isn't playing much, Bo Horvat is not going to say boo. I mean, I think it's akin to Dan Hamhuis being a part of that Sochi team as a member of the Vancouver Canucks in 2014. You knew you just had one of the terrific people in the National Hockey League in your dressing room. Low maintenance, wasn't going to cause a fuss and get ego involved. Also, I mean, he's a terrific face-off man. Now, there's differing opinions on the actual value and how important winning face-offs is, but Doug Armstrong name-checked face-off
I would bet
aptitude.
that over the course of the competition, there will be a few face-offs that matter.
Well, yeah, may he rest in peace, but Dale Hawerchuk winning the face-off at the 87 Canada Cup to set up Gretzky to Lemieux in the series-winning goal. Doug Armstrong, the GM of Canada, incidentally, the GM of the St. Louis Blues, mentioned how Bo plays on the inside, plays the guts of the ice, heavy hockey down the middle. And, yeah, absolutely, you anticipate that that's going to be the case here, particularly with a rink that's a little bit shorter, right, than your standard 200 feet. He also talked about how Horvat had played left wing and played alongside Nathan MacKinnon at the World Championships, and I think that benefited his case as well. Now, you mentioned the penalty killing, and it's funny, Jeff, because I took a look at it. In terms of Canadian forwards, who has done the most penalty killing, Bo Horvat ranks fourth on that list this year behind Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Tom Wilson of the Washington Capitals. And the Islanders are doing pretty well on the penalty kill this year. Now, we always thought him a troublesome penalty killer here.
Yeah.
Like, we were always talking about he should be a better penalty killer. The profile is there for him to be a penalty killer, but year after year, the Canucks struggled in that facet of the game, and Bo Horvat was one of the culprits. So I, like you, wondered how much will the penalty killing work against him, but it sounds like, and Doug Armstrong said he could play on either special teams.
Yeah, and, nothing says that the guy can't develop an area, like out of sight, out of mind.
Well, he developed his skating, right? We thought he was a poor skater, and then all of a sudden he became an excellent.
I haven't watched a lot of the Islanders' penalty kill, but maybe he just has upped his game in that area.
Yeah. Connor Bedard does not make it. Macklin Celebrini does, of the two Vancouver prodigies. We will get into the rest of the roster composition here in a moment. But first, let's start with our top story, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Well, another former Canuck also gets the last laugh, as Rick Tocchet's Philadelphia Flyers beat the Canucks 6-3 at Rogers Arena last night, sweep the season series versus the Canucks after their 5-2 win in Philadelphia last week. The Canucks' former coach got a brief acknowledgement on the video board during a TV timeout and was greeted with its fair share of boos. Here's some in-arena video.
Former Canucks head coach, Rick Tocchet.
You were there, Jeff?
Yeah. I think it was met with indifference for the most part. There was a smattering of boos, without a doubt. It was short. It was almost like the Canucks felt, we got to do it. We don't want to do it. There was no video tribute. Not that I expected that for a returning coach. But, yeah, it just popped up one of the TV. It wasn't the first TV timeout. It was the middle of the first period. It lasted, as you saw there, all of 6 or 8 seconds, and then on to using the Jumbotron to sell whatever product that they felt they needed to sell. So it really was much ado about nothing in the grand scheme.
Mike, you were there in the upper reaches last night. What was the crowd reaction to Tocchet, and what did you hear over the course of the evening?
It was about the same. It was a real non-issue. Like Jeff said, it was like a few seconds, started with some boos, but they weren't intense. It wasn't intense.
Nobody heard any cat calls to Tocchet, anything about quitting?
No. But they did laugh
They're
when they
even
introduced.
apathetic about that. Huh?
Yeah. They laughed when they introduced David Kampf as the starting center, though.
And then he got the last laugh because he went out and he scored.
He's got 4 Junos. He's shooting for an Emmy, reporting live on the scene, Mike Rogerson. Okay. At least the Canucks were ready to play from the jump last night, unlike that San Jose game on Saturday. Jeff, first period was one of their better periods all season.
Well, the first 10 minutes.
Outshot the Flyers 10-0 in the opening 10-plus minutes.
And then the Flyers started to turn the screws and turn the tide in that hockey game. And then the second period, the Canucks gave up a season-high 19 shots. So, for 10 minutes, but the game's not 10 minutes long. And, yes, they had an early 1-0 lead, but then, as has happened way too many times this year, fell behind and playing catch-up, and not very good at playing catch-up, and not very good overall. And they end up losing.
Let's hear from the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. Here's Tocchet.
We were on our heels. I didn't really have to say much after the first. The players knew it. We weren't skating, and then we started getting our legs and started playing the game the right way. So, actually proud of the. Sometimes you have those games early on, and you just it's shift after shift. You're trying to find something, and you're right after TV timeout, it settles down, and then we took over a little bit.
Yeah. And silly me, Jeff, I thought there would be a number of players on that Canucks bench who would look on down and say, that's the coach who quit on us, didn't believe in us, and bring a better, fuller 60-minute effort. But Noah Cates scores 12 minutes into the first period, and suddenly the Canucks have nothing to show for their great opening 10 minutes. It's 1-1 into the first intermission. I got to say, not that I track things like this, but is it a little bit telling that the last 6 former Vancouver Canucks head coaches have earned a victory in their initial return to Rogers Arena in Vancouver? I mean, look at that list, Jeff. Tocchet, Grainer, Travis with the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that Willie Desjardins coached the LA Kings for a hot minute. Willie got a dub here. Torts, right?
Yeah. Bruce hasn't had a chance to come
Alain
back.
Vigneault and Mark Crawford going all the way back to 2007. Yeah, Bruce hasn't had a chance.
We've been saying this forever. Remember how many times last year we thought, Dakota Joshua getting back in the lineup by cancer surgery. Huge boost to this lineup. They just fell flat against the Islanders. Thatcher Demco in December coming back in the lineup. Lost to St. Louis that day. It's been forever. I've been waiting for this group to take a cue.
It's a great point, Jeff. At what point does passion and emotion enter the equation for you?
Well, look at the
I
home
used
ice
to be a
record over the last.
huge believer in emotion and of these sorts of messaging points, storylines, things that make you feel something. Being part of the equation in sports, being a motivating factor. With this group, it's like the alarm goes and they just turn over and hit the snooze button.
Have you looked at where they are in the standings?
Yeah. We also asked a daily poll question, it's last night in the aftermath of the game. Do the Canucks miss Tocchet's coaching? Jeff, what do you think? The Canucks are not that far out of a playoff spot by points. Yes, there's a lot of teams to jump. But, this is not exactly a battle of titans in the Western Conference. And, of course, at the beginning of the year, the object was to get back to the Stanley Cup playoffs after missing last year. Would the Canucks be in a better situation vis-a-vis the playoff bar if Rick Tocchet is still the coach?
Yeah, I think they'd be closer. Do they miss his coaching? I don't know if I can get there. Yes, I think they would be a few points better. They'd be better defensively, and so that probably would have allowed them to pick up a few more points along the way. But I just don't know what Rick Tocchet would be doing right now that would get more out of Brock Besser or Jake DeBrusk or Liz Paterson or on it goes here. This roster is so fundamentally flawed that you could find the 5 best coaches in the history of hockey, and I'm not sure that they would have a whole lot more success with this group.
I think they'd be better defensively. I think they were more comfortable playing that zonal defensive system that Tocchet employed. I also think that they might be better off hanging on to some pucks in the offensive zone as a
so they might be
defensive metric.
26th instead of 31st. I just don't think Rick Tocchet's getting
4 more points, Jeff, and you can tell yourself you're in the midst of a playoff hunt, right?
But, Matt, they just came through a stretch before last night. They had won 5 of 7, their best 7-game stretch of the season, and it moved them up 1 spot in the in the state. Like that's who they are. They've dug themselves such a hole here. So maybe they wouldn't have put themselves behind the eight ball.
Can you find a couple of wins on that were losses and regulation losses?
I can't have they'd be playoff. Like, look at this roster. I don't even want to contemplate them matching up in a first round playoff series 4 out of 7 against one of those top teams. Just don't see it.
I'm not disputing they would be a massive underdog in round 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. What I am saying is I don't necessarily think Adam Foote is as quality a coach as Rick Tocchet.
Oh, and I don't think you're going to get much argument from anybody on that one. I mean, the resumes speak for themselves.
And so there must, so if you accept that, and you certainly accept the fact that the Canucks would not have been adapting to a new defensive system, I think you can put more points in the kitty and probably make the case that you're a little closer to the playoff bar, or at very least are, talking about your team as still in the playoff hunt, as opposed to where we are now. David Kampf with the 2-point night coming off a scratch.
Did not think I would see the day.
No, Drew O'Connor has 2 points as well. Kampf and Jake DeBrusk, of course, were scratched Monday in Seattle. DeBrusk with a pretty active game.
He did, yeah.
19 minutes. He hit a post in the first period. 3 shots, 7 attempts, 5 hits, and this is after starting on left wing of the fourth line. And Adam Foote, and I will give him this, if the idea was to get a good response out of Jake DeBrusk and get more out of other guys like Kampf, who got scratched on Monday, well, that was successful. Here's Coach on the 2 scratched players responding.
Jake was flying, especially early. I think he hit the bar on one. He was going. Kampf played how Kampf can play. Like he helped that line, and they were a good line tonight. They were forechecking hard. They were matched up against a tough line as well. I liked his game, and they brought us a lot of. You saw the forecheck. They were in on all 3 goals. It was nice to see him play with that urgency.
Yeah, here's the problem. It wasn't enough. The Canucks dropped to 4-12-1 on home ice this year. They're 1-8-1 in their last 10 at Rogers Arena, and this concludes calendar year 2025. At the rink, 37, 39, and 9, Jeff, since January 1st of this year. So that translates to 83 points.
Yeah. We're number 27. They don't have a foamy finger for we're number 27, but that's where they have been over the last 12 months. And we've watched it. We've documented it. It has not been pretty. And
it's not changed. That's the other thing. It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
They were terrible last year on home ice. Through 2 coaches with final change. Nothing. And Drew O'Connor was lamenting that in the postgame. Here's the Canucks winger.
I don't know. I wish I had an answer. We want to come in here and play well in front of our fans, and it's frustrating for them. It's frustrating for us when we don't. So it's something that we're working on, and we want to be better because it's important to have good home ice advantage, and we haven't had that.
I'm going to ask this to Patrick Johnston later, Jeff, but Drew O'Connor's up to 10 goals. Like, he's on pace for a 20-goal season here.
Yep. On
pace for 33, 34 points, something in that range. He's playing 13 and a half minutes a night and has been one of their most used penalty-killing forwards. Is Drew O'Connor part of the solution here? Is Drew O'Connor part of the Canucks' future here?
I mean, I've made this point before that the way this season has unfolded, like, I think Drew O'Connor is probably in the discussion of the 5 best Vancouver Canucks.
Absolutely.
Since the start, which
I think Roenick is your team MVP, unquestionably. I think Kiefer Sherwood is your silver medalist there.
And then it gets a little murky. Garland showed up and played hard. Demko's had his moments. I know we're going to talk about him in a sec. But Drew O'Connor is second leading goal scorer of the Vancouver Canucks. He's the second guy to double digits. He's matched his output from last year. Remember, he played 84 games because of the trade.
Right.
So before we even get to the second year in the schedule here, he's at 10 already. So good on him. And killing penalties and playing hard. And that line last night with Kampf and Sherwood, easily, like, no question, the best line for the Vancouver Canucks, which sort of tells you why the Canucks are where they are. And I just thought the top 6 was dismal last night. It's individually, guys have had their struggles, but collectively, the players that slotted in the top 6 last night were invisible. Doesn't even start to describe it.
Yeah.
So not going to win very many when you get that kind of output.
Demco has lost 3 consecutive starts here, all in regulation, twice to the Philadelphia Flyers. It's 13 goals in those 3. He's now 3-4 since returning from his injury, just 8-8 on the season. I mean, no, it was an awesome month of October for Thatcher Demko. You got to give him that, but the last couple of months haven't been as good. 0 chance he's named to the American Olympic team on Friday.
Yeah, I'm certainly not expecting to see that. I just think
I know Colby Cohen of Daily Faceoff, and I don't necessarily disagree, Jeff. When I think of a single game scenario for an American goaltender, and I ask myself, would I take peak Thatcher Demko, peak Connor Hellebuck, peak Jake Ottinger, or peak Jeremy Swayman? We know the problems that Hellebuck has had in big games, and Ottinger hasn't exactly proven himself either. You think back to Thatcher and that bubble run against Vegas and the way he played. I think he might be the best big game goaltender they have, but of course you've got to be good enough to make the team first.
I mean, it's unfortunate that we have to lean into the bubble, but that's the experience that this guy's got. He's 30 years of age. He's made 4 playoff starts in his career. Yep. So we can talk about big game, but it's all relative. His biggest games came in the most extraordinary of circumstances.
Fair
and
enough.
5 years ago, really didn't like the Grunstrom goal, the 2-1 goal from a sharp angle across his body and into the top corner there last night. And, it's kind of funny. He came back from injury, the 3 wins in the New York area. Where he's back. Look out. He's going to be the problem for the tank here. And now, as we said, 3 straight losses for Demko, all in regulation time. Meanwhile, Kevin Lankinen has the team's last 2 wins. So, goaltending? No, we won't go down that road.
Yeah.
We're not.
Well, the Cates goal, too. I mean, he's got a little time and space
I think
there.
Ogren on the back
Oh,
check
that's right. It touched the Ogren
probably.
stick. Yeah, that's right. My bad.
But still a shot from distance, even with a little bit of deflection.
Marco Rossi plays just 12 minutes and 52 seconds last night. He'd been well over 20 minutes in previous games with the Canucks. Took a hit. He looked to be favoring one of his legs. He didn't play the final 8+ minutes. And if he's missing, that is yet another blow to this Canucks top 6. Foote was asked about the lack of production in his top 6 last night and what needs to change to get more consistent scoring moving forward. I thought this answer was interesting, Jeff. They've got to go. They've got to hum. I mean, I don't know. Like, Petey is coming off a long injury where the back-to-backs are hard. They've got to have belief. They've got to figure a way to do it and just keep pushing.
I just thought
a
when he
long
said,
injury where the back-to-backs are hard.
I jumped at they've got to go. Like, they've got to go. Get them out of here.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about, Höglander can't get in the lineup because of back-to-backs. Now it's Petey and the injury. Condensed schedule, reality of life.
I get it.
It's hard in the NHL.
I get it. Like, I
thought Petey was a disaster last night. Like,
yeah.
Scored a nice goal in Seattle. I was hoping that he'd follow that up. Him and Besser together, forget it.
No, it's just not happening. And Besser, I have to think that there's something with that abdominal region that is bothering him because he looks that out of sorts.
And Marco Rossi has been totally underwhelming.
Yes, he has.
Take games, whatever. I'm not writing him off entirely, but we don't know. It's an off day for them today, so we'll have to see if there's a reason he didn't play those final 8 minutes. Like, I hope that he's not injured.
Yeah.
But he's just.
I'll say this about the back-to-backs, and how Foote has referenced them a lot this year, and he called a shot. He said at the beginning of the year, you're going to hear me say condensed schedule a lot. It's quite clear to me that, they are looking at trying to get guys more rest, like small L load management, if you will. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, I was quite encouraged that Foote decided yesterday to come back with DeBrusque and then a second forward with fresh legs in camp. Like, I think that's good process when you're looking at back-to-backs with travel, and I know it wasn't a lot of travel, but I honestly think that's good process in this condensed schedule. Look for opportunities to spot guys and give them some rest, even if it's in the framework of a healthy scratching, as it was with DeBrusque, to try and get his attention as well. So I thought that was good process. I was glad he didn't lean on the old hockey axiom of, don't change the winning lineup. No. You were tailoring a lineup to best win that night's game. Their process wasn't good in Seattle. They were not great in Seattle. So don't tell me you have to come back
3 in the first
exactly
period.
With the same lineup. So I thought that was good process. What I will say is Drew O'Connor and David Kampf are not going to be carrying you offensively. So your top 6 guys do have to go. Incidentally, D. Petey sat last night. Do you know why?
Well, I wonder if it's as simple as he had the bad change late in the first period where he crashed into Tyler Myers and it allowed the Kraken. I can't imagine that you're scratching a guy for one play like that, but it was a big play because it led to a Seattle goal. DPD, he hasn't been as good as he was last year, like a lot of guys, and he's still young. Like, I don't have a problem with him coming out of the lineup on occasion. I don't love the fact that P.O. Joseph is the replacement.
No, I mean, you would love it to be onwards and upwards and development being linear, but as we know, sometimes there are steps back, and really since the beginning of this year, I think DPD has found himself needing to prove more to Adam Foote and this coaching staff. As for the injured guys, Adam Foote said Teddy Bluger was, quote, a few weeks away, maybe a couple, and that defenseman Derek Forbert may not play again all season.
Well, it's the midway mark this weekend. So
from maintenance day, Jeff, to...
No, he played the first 2 games of the season, then the maintenance day, and then sort of disappeared, and then long-term, and now this. And, of course, he's on an expiring contract. So
so he would have been a UFA to trade, but, of course, he has to get back in the lineup and show people that he's healthy.
But I'm starting to wonder, like, for him... Like, if he misses a season at the age of 33, there's not going to be a ton of interest in him on the free agent market. So, you hope that he gets healthy and still has an opportunity. But, no, that's pretty ominous that we may not see him again in a Vancouver Canucks uniform.
And Bluger, boy, you sure hope it's 3 weeks away because he actually has to play some games before March 6th as well in the trade deadline, right? And, of course, there's a big part of February that is off. So you're talking about principally very few games if he has 3 more weeks that would be available to him to play.
No, you're probably looking
at
the
after Olympic. Right? So anyways, we'll see where that goes. As for guys who weren't in the lineup last night, Nils Höglander and Atu Ratu were scratched. You asked Coach Foote a question about these young guys needing run. Here's what he had to say.
You're in a position where you have options. You've got healthy bodies here now. Somebody has to come out. But Höglander and Ratu are young guys that are still trying to establish themselves here. How do you get them on a run if they're going to get into this sort of rut of in and out of the lineup?
Well, we don't know if they'll be in and out. Like, we're going to go day by day. And, you look at our schedule and the whole NHL, how condensed it is. And I can't sit here and tell you that we're going to see a lot more of that with our players, but we will have discussion with guys that, and we've already had discussion with our group. I don't know what the number is, 19 and 38 or whatever, that in all these games, there's going to be, it's a good, they get to push each other because there's going to be guys on tired legs where we have to recognize that and maybe give them a break. And when you're playing that many games in a row too, one with Hoggy, we just want to get him up to speed, being out as long as he was out. And you're playing back-to-backs and things like that. And, we've got young D, and who knows what, I can't tell you if one of them's going to play the rest every game or not. It goes day by day. And, I look at it like to get through the schedule, we need 4 lines, 60, and everyone. And, hopefully we get Hedl back in 2 weeks and we have more issues with numbers and then Bluger, and that's a good thing.
Well, and I'll say this, thanks, Mike.
Like my head hurts.
So I may have liked. I think I like that answer more than you. I think I understood what he was trying to say, and some of it is the load management that we just talked about. Some of it is the internal competition, and hey, you've got to practice well. You've got to prepare yourself well. If you're going to be in the lineup every single night, I mean, it's sad that would still be a consideration given the amount of time, effort, and energy this management group has talked about trying to get players to, prepare and practice and behave like pros at all times. I will say this to Coach Foote, free advice: don't ever utter the line "goes day by day" because it sounds very Jim Benning-esque, right? We live day by day,
but Höglander's been a scratch 4 of the last 5 now.
Right. And I will say I am concerned about Höglander at this point.
He said he wants to get Höglander up to speed. Well, bringing him, the yo-yo treatment's not
for
going to get it done.
Nils Höglander may have to wait on a Kiefer Sherwood trade to get more opportunity here. But yes, I am now very concerned, capital V, on Nils Höglander in terms of his future with the Vancouver Canucks. Like at one point, he looked like he was going to be a winger that was a part of the core, if not the top 6, the top 9. And now with that contract extension at $3 million per, I'm not even sure what kind of trade value he has. I do wonder whether a fresh start somewhere else would benefit him. But if you're the Canucks, you're selling awfully low. Yeah. Ratu, I sort of feel the same way I do about DPD, is you were hoping for more. You were hoping for linear development where it was onwards and upwards. There have been some steps back. Okay, sky is not falling. But over the second half of the schedule, please freaking tell me that Aatu Ratu is going to be an every night centerman, particularly when you take a look at who the Vancouver Canucks have played at center and who they were scratching him to play at center just a couple of weeks ago, Jeff.
Right. And so I know David Kampf got in there and he scored a goal. They're not looking to David Kampf to be an offensive producer, really. And there's no future. David Kampf's not part of anything beyond the season. 1-year deal, trying to stay in the National Hockey League, was trying to prove to the Czech Hockey Federation that he belonged on their Olympic team and they wanted to see him in the National Hockey League. But again, this organization's got to be ruthless now. It's not about the here and now. It's can Aatu Ratu play in the National Hockey League on a nightly basis? The faceoffs, he's established himself as one of the best in the National Hockey League, but there's more to the game than just that. But for the most part this season, he's played pretty well when he's been in there. So, yeah, it does feel like they need to make a trade or two here to free up some spots. Again, somebody's going to have to sit. But it probably shouldn't always be Höglander and Ratu. And I gather that some of the other guys that you think were candidates are playing well and scoring and producing, and so that's part of why they're staying in the lineup, although I didn't think Ogren was terrific last night, but he's been pretty good since the trade. So, I know a lot of people, like, why doesn't Evander Kane come out of the lineup? Because he fights for this hockey team, Matt. Did you see that? It kind of was a fight. But I think with Kane, it's more of a showcase thing, isn't it? Like, I think they're... if they're scratching him, playoff.
You scratch him, you're making your manager look bad because he traded for him. Then, yes, I think it's a showcase thing as well. I also think that Adam Foote is inclined to trust some veterans more and trusts Evander Kane more.
Evander Kane didn't play much. Did you see that last night? I mean, he had the 5 minutes in the penalty box for the fight, but he played under 11 minutes, which this is a guy that was playing.
Well, he's finally backing off the ice time for Kane. If there was and
it was second night of back-to-backs.
And so on the list of things that surprised me from Adam Foote, it was the heavy reliance on Kane as a 5-on-5 forward, as much as he was through the first 35 games or so. Yellow Dog and our friends at Foolish Winery. And this is Foolish Winery. Villain Syrah. This Foolish wine, red, soft, silky, blackberry, wildberry, white pepper mingle together and show off the spicy undertones that Syrah is famous for. They've done something a little mischievous here with this wine. You can find it on Instagram to see where you can purchase Foolish Winery wines across British Columbia. Time now for Crave the Stats, brought to you by Uber Eats. And today we look at scoring since the Quinn Hughes trade. 8 games, 2.5 weeks since. And J-Pat, here's how it looks. For those of you on audio platforms, it is Linus Karlsson leading the way with 4 goals and 5 points, tied with Philip Hronek, who has 5 assists. It's the aforementioned Drew O'Connor with his 4 points. And then 3 points apiece for Marcus Paterson, Liam Ogren, Tom Villander, who scores last night, David Kampf after his 2-point night, and Evander Kane.
What a list.
No Paterson, no Rossi, no Buim.
No
and,
Garland,
of course, no Bresser, no Garland, no DeBrusk.
That is wild. Like, when you just think of the names on this Vancouver Canuck team, and I guess it's a short little span, but it's getting longer by the day here. And I don't want to go deep here, but the troubles of Brock Boeser. Like, we're focused on the goals because he's a goal scorer, right? Brock Boeser has 1 point in his last 14 games. And you know what it was? It was the little chip along the boards at Madison Square where the linesman picked the Ranger defenseman and Evander Kane scored.
That's right.
Like, it wasn't a possession, a touch of the puck in the offensive zone. It wasn't a playmaking
It
of
was
any
a mistake by a linesman, basically,
That's
or
his only point.
unavoidable.
And so, to take it deeper, Brock Besser is a fixture on the first unit power play of the Vancouver Canucks. His last power play point in Tampa in the middle of November. Like, there's just nothing, absolutely nothing happening for this guy.
We talked about him yesterday.
Yeah.
I shudder to think that we're talking about a declining player in the first year of a 7-year deal. I am waiting to hear if there is more about, they thought it was appendicitis or he did. They had him checked out a couple of times. Whatever the case there, I hope it is the reason why Brock has struggled as much as he has over the last month.
5 shots in his
or
last
so.
5 games for a volume shooter.
Yep.
5 shots, nothing last night. Just nothing.
From game day eats to paper plates and napkins, if you're hosting, and you might be hosting tonight, to all the ingredients you need to make your favorite game day dip before, during, after the game. Uber Eats is assisting every hockey fan's experience all season long, and there are fantastic game day deals on the app. Every time the Canucks play at home, you can get a buy one, get one 6-piece chicken McNuggets from McDonald's, only on Uber Eats. All right, let's turn our attention to this Canadian Olympic team, Jeff. As Canada names its squad for the 2026 Milano Cortina Olympics in Italy, it features ex-Canuck captain Bo Horvat, as we've gone over, 4 British Columbians, Vancouver's Macklin Celebrini, West Vancouver Sam Reinhart, Abbotsford's Devon Taves, and Aldergrove's Shea Theodore. 5 players from the Four Nations roster were left off this team. Forwards Sam Bennett, Travis Konechny, and Seth Jarvis. Goaltenders Aiden Hill and Sam Montembeault. I'm surprised they left Sam Bennett off the team. He's a serial winner. He's won the last 2 Stanley Cups as well as last year's Four Nations. He plays a game that I'm not sure you have on this roster outside of Tom Wilson, but even then I think Tom Wilson sometimes goes a little too far. I think back to some of those Four Nation games, particularly the 2 games against the United States, and what kind of a thorn in the American side that Sam Bennett was. I sure hope it's not a political decision with the head coach being a Tampa Bay Lightning and having 3 Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah, but having 3 Tampa Bay Lightning forwards there, and yes, Brad Marchand, who's undeniable at age 37. Although I do think you're going to have to shelter Marchand. The defensive metrics this year have been awful on Marchand. So I'm a little surprised on Bennett. I would have play center. I would have taken Sam Bennett. You hope it doesn't matter. Not surprised that we're turning over 2 goaltenders. Are you a little surprised it's Darcy Kemper over one of the Woods, Blackwoods or Wedgwood, who are having good seasons?
I am, and I'm not going to get too worked up about the third-string goaltender. I might in February if things go sideways, but right now I'm not. But I will say, I think Mackenzie Blackwood is a victim of playing on that Colorado Avalanche team. Like his numbers,
people look at the team and just think, "Oh, it's such a great."
Insane.
Yes.
Like he's 12-1-1 with a .215 goals against average, a .924 save percentage,
and Wedgwood's even better by the analytics.
Yeah.
I mean,
I didn't think Wedgwood had a chance, but Blackwood, I thought. And again, I'll reserve my soapbox. If we get to a point where goaltending completely lets Canada down. But yeah, I mean, we always, on days like this, we look for the snubs, and I do think Mackenzie Blackwood has a reason to feel like maybe he was left out.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The newcomers on this team: Bo Horvat, Macklin Celebrini, Tom Wilson, Nick Suzuki, captain of the Montreal Canadiens, and then, of course, the 2 goaltenders, Logan Thompson and Darcy Kemper. You're able to take 14 forwards to this tournament. It was just 13 at the Four Nations, so that's why there's an additional forward there. 7 forwards, 5 defensemen, and 2 goaltenders are 30 years old or older. Pretty long in the tooth. On a condensed schedule. You're going to be, most of the way through the NHL schedule, so that's something to keep an eye on. Okay, let's talk about the Vancouver kids. I mean, Celebrini for me was a lock from the jump this year. Anybody who's listened to this show understands where I stand on Macklin Celebrini. For me, he is the truth. For me, he is the next superstar in the National Hockey League to take the mantle from McKinnon and McDavid. I think you're talking about a complete hockey player here. Honestly, and I've said it in the past, like I think you're looking at a Steve Yzerman level player here in terms of the points he's able to put up, young Yzerman put up, and of course all the defensive character, intangible work that Steve Yzerman brought to the Detroit Red Wings as they got better and became a multi-time Stanley Cup champion. So for me, Celebrini was never a question. As a matter of fact, Jeff, as I look up and down the roster, I would play Celebrini on a wing with someone like a McDavid, a Crosby, or a McKinnon. I think he is that good. I would have taken Bedard, and I would have taken Bedard because of the shootout. And we're going to get into this with John Shannon, but Jeff is scoffing at me. Look at the indignation, everybody. Some of you will remember Nagano in 1998, where we got beaten in the shootout by Dominik Hasek and the Czechs. I just hope that every stone was turned over here from Doug Armstrong, his management staff, John Cooper, his coaching staff, in terms of who we are lining up in a shootout, if that is the case. And I say that because Bedard is 4 of 8 career in the shootout. He is the best percentage of any Canadian forward. Now, they do have guys who have been successful in the shootout. But what I love about bringing Celebrini, and I think Bedard would have reinforced this, and frankly, Matthew Schaefer would have reinforced this as well, is to have those young guys there, not necessarily because they're going to be the next generation and you want to get them experience. I'm more concerned about winning a gold medal than I am getting anybody experience. But because I think you get a rise out of some of the older players when you bring some of that youthful enthusiasm into the room. And look, Macklin's a type A, and he may have enough personality and enthusiasm and all that in abundance to compensate for the lack of other extremely young players. But you tell me, Jeff, where were you on Celebrini and Bedard, and where are you after the announcement?
I think at the outset of the season, I wanted it to happen for both of these guys. I'm a North Van guy, right? I was cheering for my boys.
Technically, they consider Macklin from Vancouver, not Vancouver as
Grand
Hockey
Boulevard.
Canada.
He told me to my face when
The
I asked him-
Celebrinis have lived all over the Lower Mainland. Rick is from Burnaby, so those of us in Vancouver
I asked
proper.
where you grew up. He said Grand
Macklin
Boulevard,
Celebrini.
North Van.
Vancouver's Macklin.
Proudly, we claim him. He is one of ours. I wish Blake was here to back me up. Whatever the case, I think I was in that show me. Like, I wanted to think it could happen for him, but I needed to see a little. He's breathtaking to watch in person, and saw him here in that game right after Christmas where it was him, and then there wasn't a second best player on the ice that night. Like, he was just in a league of his own.
Yep.
To the point now, when you look at his season,
He's third in the league in scoring right now, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, but it's the gap on the Sharks. Like, if the Hart Trophy is adjudged to be the most valuable to his team, like, he has to get Hart consideration. I don't think he's going to win it,
yeah.
but
No question.
like, the separation from first to second, and Will Smith's out of their lineup right now, and he's just carrying them.
60 points behind only McDavid at 69 and McKinnon at 66. He's got 4 more than Draisaitl in 1 less game played. Macklin Celebrini.
I think he's got twice as many points as the next San Jose Shark. Like,
So
I'm delighted. He deserves to be there. That's the right call. Bedard, the injury clouded things.
I think so.
And I guess I understand that a little bit. I mean, I hear you when you say, bringing in these 2 guys that have lived up to the billing now as first overall selections, phenoms, a little youthful enthusiasm, the 2 of them together, all of that. Like, I have time for that argument and discussion. I guess I didn't think that both of them would make the grade. So I'm not surprised the way it went here.
I struggle. I had Bedard on my team. I struggled a little bit. I left Hagel off my team for Bedard, which I really struggled with because I just loved what Hagel did last year at the Four Nations. But he's a pure winger. And just the way I was going about structuring the team and the lines, I wanted to make sure I had enough centermen for my bottom 6. Bringing Bedard, you would have had to have sheltered Connor Bedard, right? Like, Connor Bedard is still not defensively reliable enough that you would have wanted him out there in all situations. He would have been more of an offensive and power play specialist. And when I take a look at the defensive metrics on Marchand and how poor he's been on that side of the puck, and look, at one point was a terrific two-way player, but 37 years old now, you may already be sheltering a player, a winger, from the defensive responsibility. So I get that. But, instant offense, need a goal. Connor Bedard, the shot, the way he can release it from different angles. I thought
Instant
there could
offense,
be,
need a goal. That's what McDavid and
well,
McKinnon are
no,
for.
I hear you. But the fresh legs of somebody, if you were sheltering him and playing him in lesser minutes. Connor McDavid of the Edmonton Oilers, Nick Suzuki of the Montreal Canadiens, Josh Morrissey of the Winnipeg Jets are the three Canadian players who play on Canadian teams. One more thought on roster composition, and I do believe this is a mistake they made. So they kept all 8 defensemen from the Four Nations. The more I went through the exercise, J-Pat, because I went into the exercise thinking, I'm not going to give a ton of credence to the Four Nations victory. It's a small tournament. And, hey, that was last year. What about this year? What have you done for me lately? But, I thought it started thinking more and more that, no, that should matter. Like that group having success together, and particularly some of those defense pairs playing together, because remember, short tournament, you don't have a lot of time to forge chemistry here. So I would have kept 7 of the 8 Four Nations defensemen. The guy I would have left off was Travis Sanheim, and I would have put Noah Dobson on the team. And the reason I would have put Noah Dobson on the team is that's a pure right shot defenseman for you who is comfortable with size, comfortable moving the puck, transporting the puck, can be an offensive contributor as well. And I say that, Jeff, because our right side is Cale Makar, best in the world, 36-year-old Drew Doughty, and I'm bringing Doughty, and they brought Doughty. He is the only Canadian player with outside of Crosby with Olympic experience, right? The Four Nation experience is one thing,
Right.
but
Yep.
Olympic experience is another matter. It's been a long time since since anybody in the NHL has played in the Olympic tournament. And Colton Parayko at age 32, but with a lot of miles there on Colton Parayko. So I'm just a little bit worried. If you lose a right shot defenseman, you have an offhand defenseman playing that side, whether it's Travis Sanheim, whether it's Shea Theodore, whether it's Thomas Harley.
No, I think that's fair. And these are the best in the world. You'd like to think that in a pinch they could slide over, but they're also facing the best in the world, and any competitive advantage could very well matter in a tight game, late in a hockey game. So fair enough. Who hasn't been just blown away by Matthew Schaefer? I kind of thought he had played himself into a position. And
I started with him on my team, Jeff, and then I went through the process of elimination. What I just said about I do believe the Four Nations should matter to some degree. I left him off, but I also left him off because I was bringing Celebrini and Bedard already.
We heard Doug Armstrong say that they have identified there is a list of guys that have been put on notice that in the event, and with the number of injuries we've seen in the compressed schedule, there's going to be some injuries between now and the Olympics, unfortunately. Like, you could name a roster all you want. I bet you there is 1 or 2 changes still to come.
Yep.
And so we'll see what happens. But I hear where you're going with that line of thinking, and hopefully that that right side is stable enough that it holds up its own. But, yeah, I mean, Drew Doughty, all the experience in the world, great. But in the moment, how does that, is that enough to help him? And Parayko's nowhere close to the player that he once was.
Well,
He
that's
was
it.
one of the biggest,
Colton
baddest.
Parayko in 2019 is on my team all day long. In fact, he's in my top 4 all day long. But he's not the same guy. And so,
Game has sped up. He has not.
Exactly. So, that age on the right side, and in Parayko's case, maybe not quite as mobile, something to watch. Okay, let's move on to the Canucks and Kiefer Sherwood here for a moment. I saw Elliot Freeman talking about this may very well come down to who wants to the return for the Vancouver Canucks, who wants to extend him and who wants him just as a rental. And he mentioned Dallas as being a team that may just want him as a rental. Look, the Canucks need the biggest return possible here, so I think it is imperative that they allow Sherwood and his agent to speak extension with other teams because I think that returns more. And I bring this up in the context of the New Jersey Devils. And if you missed it last night, the New Jersey Devils lose to the Toronto Maple Leafs, the ex-team, of course, the head coach of Sheldon Keefe. That's right. And Sheldon Keefe blisters his team in the postgame, questioning their toughness. Nico Hischier had a fight, of all people, last night. The New Jersey Devils missed out on Quinn Hughes and uniting, I was about to say reuniting, but uniting the Hughes brothers. Tom Fitzgerald has taken a lot of heat. His coach is now publicly messaging, we're not tough enough. And they're one of the teams out there that was having trouble with the Hughes deal because they needed to move money out, where Sherwood comes at the $1.5 million, Jeff. I just wonder if you've got a situation where Jersey is desperate and you can take advantage of that from a leverage standpoint on a Kiefer Sherwood trade.
I mean, it's so stacked in the East, but if you look today, Jersey is 2 points out of last in the Eastern Conference. Now, they're only a handful of points away from being in a divisional playoff spot.
It's like 2 weeks ago I looked and the Senators were leading their division. Now they're last.
But to your point, like Tom Fitzgerald's taking a beating right now, and some of that is, you missed out on what should have been a layup somehow to bring the brothers together. But like that's a good team that, again, has had designs over the last couple of years on making some real noise in the playoffs. For them to miss out entirely, and I know Jack has been injured, but they're going to get him back here. It does feel like Tom Fitzgerald's got to step up here and take a swing at some point.
Absolutely. Another situation we're monitoring, we talked about it yesterday. The injury to Kochetkov, and he's out for the season for the Carolina Hurricanes. They give up 5 goals last night. They give up 3 early to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Is Freddie Anderson done? Like, he was on the hook for all 5 of those goals.
Do they need a goaltender?
Yes.
Does that mean Thatcher Demko or Kevin Lankinen, if he's willing to waive his trade protection, could be Carolina Hurricanes? Are the Canucks willing to go that deep in their retool or rebuild in hybrid form?
Well, I think a few more nights like that for the Hurricanes, and
you have to be on the goaltender.
You're going to hear
market.
some howls.
You have to be
Raleigh.
on the goaltender market. Also, Buffalo is winning all these games now, Jeff. So I can't imagine Jarmo Kekalainen's going to mess with this right now because they haven't had a lot of things going well.
Can't stop the Sabres.
No. But if they have, they do need a decision from Alex Tuch one way or the other on whether he wants to re-sign. That I do believe is going to be irrespective of record and playoff chase. Buffalo either needs Alex Tuch re-signed or they need to train him by the deadline. We'll mention again, his wife's a Vancouver girl. He wants $10.5 million per year, though, Jeff. I don't know. If you're retooling a little bit in a hybrid form, maybe Alex Tuch is a trade to make. We know Liz Paterson has been made. His name's been mentioned in Buffalo.
Alex Tuch's wife may want to come back to Vancouver. You know what she probably really, really wants, though, is the $10.5 million a year.
Who wouldn't?
He's getting paid wherever he goes. I don't know if he can get to 10.5, but...
Yeah. And just a reminder, mentioned this yesterday, there is actually another roster freeze coming in the National Hockey League here. From noon Pacific time, Wednesday, February 4th, to 8:59 Pacific time on Sunday, February 22nd. This is the Olympic break, and rosters will be frozen, including call-ups. You can't even make call-ups during that period of time. So is it a contrived deadline? Yes. But so is the holiday roster freeze, and we've seen that the last couple of years has spurred on some movement, Jeff.
Well, and just February 22nd is the end of the Olympics. That freeze comes off. March 6th is the trade deadline.
That's right.
So that's 2 weeks, essentially.
After that. Let's get to our menu today. It's brought to you by our friends at Greta, a fantastic spot to pregame or postgame. You are mere steps from the arena or the stadium. It's also a fantastic venue if you've got an upcoming party here over the holiday season or into the new year. They have the awesome arcade that encircles the bar, a game for everyone, fun during the intermissions, pregame and postgame as well, let me tell you. Competitive for some of those terminals, and the fantastic street food menu. For more info to book your event, go to gretabar.com, Greta 50 West Cordova. let the games begin. John Shannon is going to join us here as we dissect the Olympic roster, one of Canada's favorite pastimes. Patrick Johnston will stop by. We'll talk Canucks with him as well as Bo Horvat. Then later in the program, some bizarre stories from local soccer teams. Seahawks and 49ers, of course, and the massive tilt Saturday for all the marbles in the NFC. And then December 30th. You want a Hall of Fame athlete? Have them born December 30th. We'll explain all that coming up. Time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. J-Pat, what you looking at today?
Well, all this talk about the Olympics got me thinking that, we're not that far out. 5.5 weeks till they drop the puck? Does the building have a front door yet? Do we know?
I sure hope so.
All right.
Well, I hope the Zamboni fits, because that was an issue.
Hope they have a Zamboni. Right? Hope somebody didn't forget about, we didn't order the Zamboni. It's Italy. They kind of, the Ferrari,
they'll get to it.
Ferrari plant could build them a nice resurfacing machine. Just looking at the futures then. Canada is the betting favorite at plus 140, followed by the U.S. at plus 200, then Sweden and Finland. I mean, those are the big four, obviously. You can get Sweden at plus 500 if you believe in the Swedes. The Finns at plus 800.
Well, I can only imagine and know some people in the Celebrini circle. I can only imagine how jacked that Macklin Celebrini is about this Olympic selection. Let's face it, I think a lot of people would have said at the beginning of this season, it's a little soon, a little young for Macklin Celebrini. Like
He'll be a teenager.
He'll be a part of the 2030 team, but 2026, no. Let's go with a bit of an older lineup. So I'm sitting here going, I think Macklin Celebrini is going to play his tail off tonight against the Minnesota Wild. And I am even going as far as thinking, I wonder if Macklin Celebrini is sitting on a multi-point game, even a 3-point game. Celebrini is plus 150 to score 2 points tonight, but J-Pat, give me 3 points at plus 500. Let's do some gambling here.
I like it.
On New Year's Eve
I think that'll
with
be a
the
fun game.
Vancouver kid, Macklin Celebrini, who has spent some time living on the North Shore, but the Vancouver kid, Macklin Celebrini.
North Shore kid.
I know. Even the producer is against me on this one.
I think that'll be a fun hockey game, though. The Sharks and the way the Wild are going right now.
Oh, absolutely. Two pretty good teams. Well, let me rephrase. One
Lots of
outstanding player against a pretty good team.
Yeah.
This segment, a presentation of Bet365, whatever your bet. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. John Shannon coming up next. Sekeres and Bryce from the historic Wall Center, and this next segment brought to you by Pizza Pizza. Craving big flavor at Pizza Pizza? You can get an 18-inch double extra large 3-topping pizza for just $19.99. This is 8 massive slices. It's perfect for sharing. Of course, you don't have to share either. You can have it in one sitting, put it in the fridge, eat it the next morning for breakfast. Pizza Pizza. Thank you for all your support in 2025. Here's John Shannon, the former executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada, his podcast, 100% Hockey, the most famous man from Oliver, British Columbia. Happy New Year, John.
Happy New Year, guys. And listen, the good news is I can actually go down the street to a Pizza in my neighborhood, too.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
In bustling downtown Port Credit. I was there in September visiting a friend. A lovely little neighborhood there right on Lake Ontario, John. And Pizza made its way here to British Columbia a number of years ago, and I was absolutely delighted to see it, as I said when they first joined up. if I had $1 for every time we got back from the bar and ordered pizza during my university year, well, high school and university years. Okay, let's have at it. You're an old veteran on this, John, splicing and breaking down the Canadian Olympic roster. First and foremost, general impressions. Anything surprise you from today's announcement?
Pleasantly surprised. I had liked the fact that Bo Horvat was in the conversation, and the fact that he made it, to me, tells me something, that the process that Doug Armstrong and his crew went through really was thorough. I think Bo's had a hell of a season, and can add to any team he plays for. I was always concerned that they would, just go back to what the Four Nations face-off allowed them to do, but to have new blood like Horvat on this club, and Nick Suzuki, as well as obviously Macklin Celebrini, to me is important. And the other thing is, when people get appointed, people lose their jobs. I was surprised Sam Bennett was on the team.
Wasn't.
But I think that role is perfect for Tom Wilson anyway. So,
you mentioned Macklin. I mean, it seemed like a foregone conclusion here in the last days and weeks. There was a bigger question about it not long ago. Armstrong said in the post presser that it was really about early December. But Celebrini and no Bedard. Take that one on, John.
I'm not sure I can, because I'm not sure Doug really expanded on it very much. I think, first of all, I was not sold on Celebrini early, and then, I don't know, Jeff, you remember the night San Jose played in Vancouver not too long ago.
Yeah.
Man, was he good. Oh, my goodness gracious.
17 shot attempts, I think it was. Yeah.
Spectacular. And so it wasn't the early December for me, but it was end of December, and certainly that was a factor. I can't answer you on the Bedard thing. What I can tell you is that Bedard and Schaefer will be the first two guys they go to if they need bodies. That's pretty obvious to me that the Bedard was that close. You do wonder, and this was something that Doug Armstrong mentioned as well. They were really impressed with Celebrini at the World Championships and how he fit with all the veteran players that were at the Worlds. And so that, to me, that again tells you this process. Well before Four Nations, World Championships, and now the Olympics, that they have analyzed this to no end. And they liked the person. Forget about the player. They liked the person and how he fit in, because chemistry at times in these short tournaments is just as important as ability.
We talked a moment ago about no Sam Bennett, but two of his Florida Panther teammates are on this team, and not a surprise in either Sam Reinhart or Brad Marchand. But, John, has the hockey community at large sort of slept on these two guys this season when you think of they're both among the top 8 in goal scorers in the National Hockey League? No Sasha Barkov, no Matthew Tkachuk. Like, we've heard the Canucks lean on injuries, and they had a bunch, but come on. Barkov and Tkachuk out of the lineup entirely, and through it all, Reinhart and Marchand have scored at an incredible rate. Should we be surprised at the seasons that those two have had to this point, given who they haven't had to play with?
I don't think we should be ever surprised at Sam Reinhart. Sam Reinhart's a superstar. And surprised isn't the word I would use with Brad Marchand, Jeff. Amazed. Absolutely amazed that a guy who, at his age, nearing 38 years of age, 1,000 games, might be playing his most effective hockey of his career. And that's speaking and saying something when you consider he's won a state in Boston. Sorry, I didn't need to bring that up. He was a vital part of the World Cup team in 2016. He was a vital part of the Four Nations last year. But Brad Marchand, and a vital part of the Panthers Stanley Cup run this year, but Brad Marchand never ceases to amaze. He really doesn't. And I think that we have witnessed in these 15 or 16 years the evolution of a bad boy to a superstar like no other. Actually, the closest one, and I'm going to really date myself, the closest one would be Stan Mikita. And I don't know if you remember, Jeff, but
Yep.
in the early 60s, Stan Mikita was using his stick all the time. He was chippy all the time. He was and 2 years later won the Lady Byng. And this is what Brad Marchand has become. Brad Marchand will never win the Lady Byng, but Marchand has become such a great catalyst for Florida, and I suspect he will become that similar catalyst for Canada when they go to Milan.
And on a day like today, of course, we look at, sort of the fringes of who just made the grade and who didn't. But what about the fact, we're a month out, we're 5 weeks out, the level that Connor McDavid has played at here in the month of December, and Nathan McKinnon all season, and then Celebrini. I mean, the top three scorers in the National Hockey League are Canadians, the best three players on the planet, it feels like right now. How much confidence do you think that should give us as a hockey playing and loving country that these guys have taken their game to an even, another level?
Well, here we are, the last day of 2025, and we're saying it. Let's just hope, after the third game of the tournament, we're not lamenting that we can't score goals. Because we've been through that before with great players. Where's our goal scoring gone? What's happened to it? To watch Connor as closely as I have this season has been an absolute treat. And he's talked about the learning curve that he has had, knowing that he has to peak in February. Now, in his mind, he's going to have to peak twice. He's going to have to peak in February and then peak again in April if the Oilers are going to be successful. But just the fact that he comprehends that he has to be in his best frame of mind, physical frame of mind, in order to be ready for the Olympic tournament tells you how focused he is on this. And that's why we've seen December the way it has. And it really coincides with the Oilers' reemergence as one of the best teams in the Western Conference and perhaps the best team in the Pacific.
You tweeted 5 players from the Four Nations face-off team are not a part of this Canadian Olympic team. 2 of them are goaltenders, of course, and Aiden Hill and Sam Montembeault. 3 of them are forwards, and Sam Bennett, we've talked about him, Travis Konechny and Seth Jarvis. The newcomers, of course, are Macklin Celebrini, Nick Suzuki, Tom Wilson, and Bo Horvat. You are allowed a 14th forward at this tournament, so it's additional +1. It's the same 8 defensemen, John. What's your read on that?
If you recall, by the time we get to the final game of Four Nations, Theodore was gone, injured. Morrissey couldn't play. I think both of those guys deserve to be there, and I do think that what happened was, and then Thomas Harley came in from, the only Canadian from Syracuse, New York. Thomas Harley came in to rescue them from on the back end. So that means the other 5 guys really impressed this coaching staff. The other 5 guys made a difference to how Canada played. And I think there was a real comfort factor amongst the coaching staff to say, we really like our defense. And then we're only going to get better with Theodore there, who's Shea Theodore's should be in the conversation for the Norris Trophy. And Josh Morrissey had a good tournament until he got the flu for the final game. So I don't think this is as big an issue as a lot of people are making it at this point. And so from my perspective, I think this defense is what I would describe as like a good old-fashioned warm winter blanket for the coaching staff. And you always like your winter blanket when you're in the cold, and that's what these guys are going to rely on during the tournament.
You know what I dislike about the defense?
Old. They're old.
Well, it's not just that. It's 5 lefties and 3 righties, with the old guys being on the right side and Parayko and Doughty. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Theodore and from Aldergrove. Poor guy can't stay healthy, for heaven's sakes. I mean, missing games has been too much a part of his program. But for me, if you were to lose a right side defenseman, boy, and heaven forbid it's Cale Makar, people tell me Travis Sanheim is comfortable on both sides. So he's played 100% of the time on the left side this year for the Philadelphia Flyers. So I am left to wonder, where are we going on the right side if we were to lose a player in tournament? Is that Theodore that jumps over? Is that Harley that jumps over? And how off-put is everybody from having a guy playing his offside?
Well, you're only going, I mean, you're only going to run 3 pair anyway. So the only way you risk any of this is via injury, right?
Or performance, John. Like, I mean, Parayko doesn't move like he used to. If Doughty is too big for his britches and turning over pucks and whatnot, I may want to look and say, okay, do we need to make a move there?
But the one thing I will say is, in the preliminary round at the Olympics, we're going to see all 8 guys. We are going to see all 8 guys, all 8 defensemen, and then they can make the difference. Quite frankly, I think the coaching staff have probably already made and picked the pairs. They've already picked the pairs and decided who's going to play with whom, and then see what happens. So I'm not as concerned as you are, Matt. I've never been as big an advocate. I don't have the Babcockian decision process of one righty, one lefty all the time. That's something when you're in this group of players in the Olympics, you better be prepared to play on the other side, at least for some point. And that's what great defensemen can do. They really can.
Yeah. My other wonder about this team is how much time was spent looking at shootout. We are all old enough, gentlemen, to remember Nagano, right? Where we got goaltended, shootouted by Dominic Hasek and the Czechs. And for me, that was kind of one of the cases for Connor Bedard as instant offense and a guy who would just scare the bejesus out of goaltenders.
Yeah, but let's remember Olympic shootouts, you can actually repeat players, right?
Understand, yes.
I saw Mark Crawford.
You can repeat players
last night at the hockey game too. Speaking of Nagano and shootout decisions,
I'm blaming Andy Murray.
And shootouts are such a wild card. Nathan McKinnon, I think, has taken 2 all year isn't in the top 3.
50%, by the way. He's 4 of 8 in his career.
I mean, you'd assume it would be McKinnon, McDavid, and Crosby.
Well, you would have assumed it was Gretzky in 98.
Exactly. So,
Jeff.
We cross the bridge, I guess, when you get there.
No, I think, yeah.
Well, win the games in regulation and don't worry about shootouts.
When you say cross the bridge
when
you
the games
get there,
in regulation,
I hope
that's the best answer.
For sure, but I hope there was some architecture and not just finger painting when we started talking. When the coaching staff in Armstrong got down to, okay, what's our plan if there's a shootout, right? Like I hope they have those guys.
This forward group. I'm looking at this forward group and saying you're concerned about shootouts.
I know.
I mean, holy smokes!
I'm just saying, no
Chicken
stone.
Little. Come on!
I am saying no stone unturned here, Mr. Shannon. We lost a chance at an Olympic medal because of our performance, or a gold medal because of our performance or lack thereof in a shootout. Not to mention a little bit of confusion and some head-scratching selections in that shootout.
You think Finland is going to start Kevin Lankinen just in case games
Kevin Lankinen might be the antidote to all of these Canadian superstars. Yes, that is what.
Oh my goodness!
That is what I'm
listen, I just don't want to play Lankinen in a shootout on a Saturday. That's all I know.
Absolutely, you don't want to play him at any point in a shootout. He's 17 for 17 this year, John. He is the guy. Talk to me on goaltenders. Who's your starting goaltender? How do you feel about this trio?
Jordan Binnington's my starting goalie. And by the end of the preliminary round, Logan Thompson will be the starting goalie. And then we'll go from there. So, and Darcy Kemper, you enjoy your time in Italy and
enjoy the pasta.
Yeah, enjoy. Have a good time. Be part of the team.
So,
this to me is Thompson's right now the best goalie of the three, but Jordan Binnington has earned this opportunity to prove that he still has it. And we will find that out in that preliminary round and then go from there.
So what I'm hearing, John, is you anticipate one of those Curtis Joseph to Martin Brodeur to Roberto Luongo, lose a game in the preliminary round, you're out.
In our Canadian DNA.
And then I'm running the next guy all the way through. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I actually think that if Binnington plays great the first game, he will stay. If there's a doubt in John Cooper's mind and the staff's mind, then it will be Logan Thompson's turn, and it will be Logan Thompson's turn to win and stay in. And then that's how I envision it. If this is still Jordan Binnington's job, in my opinion. It is still his job. He has earned that right.
I said it last year. What I want in my Canadian goaltender is a guy who is not going to be too awed or starstruck by the moment, meaning the game itself and the opponent, whether it's the United States, Sweden, Finland, one of the better hockey-playing nations. You're in a tight one. The pressure is on. I want somebody who's able to respond to that. Binnington certainly did in the gold medal game of the Four Nations face-off. And then the second part, I don't want my goaltender looking around and being starstruck by all the guys in the room going, holy cow, I got to pinch myself. I can't believe I'm here and starting goaltender with this lot. Jordan Binnington doesn't seem to have any sort of gene that doubts Jordan Binnington. So
yeah, I don't think any of these guys do. I think these guys are, the elite of the elite when it comes to goaltenders. There's only 32 starters in the world like this. Logan Thompson has played alongside some of the greats of the game in Vegas and has played alongside Alex Ovechkin in Washington. Darcy Kemper's played again with Andrei Kopitar and Drew Doughty. I don't see any of these goalies being wowed by the event that it is. That's why they're NHL goaltenders. That's why they're at this level. I mean, to me, Binnington, his athletic ability, his ability to focus and make the big save has been proven, whether it be in the Stanley Cup final in Game 7 in a hostile environment in Boston, or the hostile environment that was Boston again for Four Nations. He's the guy until further notice.
Mm-hmm. Do you see Wilson as the 14th forward, or do you see Horvat as the 14th forward? Who is the guy you anticipate sees the least amount of ice time up front?
I think that it will be a debate between Wilson, Suzuki, and Horvat.
Yeah. Point is not having
I was going to say Cirelli as well, but not
Cirelli.
Here's
Cirelli's your primary penalty kill. Go ahead.
Here's John Cooper. We got to kill a penalty.
Yeah.
Okay, 71. You're up. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
so Cirelli and Hagel are your two primary. In fact, they're the two leading Canadian forwards in terms of shorthanded time on ice per game. Not to mention, they, of course, got great chemistry coming from the same club program in Tampa,
right.
And, of course, were a duo and a good one at the Four Nations last year. Yeah. So, for
I think both could play a huge factor in the penalty kill, too, though. I really do.
Yeah, I mean,
we
haven't seen him as much. Go ahead.
Still great on faceoffs.
Great on faceoffs. We shall give him that.
Penalties, yeah. And, I've watched the Islanders a lot this year. And you guys saw him for a long time, and I would tell you right now, he is shooting the puck better than any time he shot the puck in Vancouver. So
Yeah.
I just think I was thrilled that they put Bo on there. I hadn't heard his name enough of late, but I think it's a great choice. I really do. I think it's a great choice.
Your most used penalty kill forwards at the NHL this year are Cirelli and Hagel, Tom Wilson and Bo Horvat, Sam Reinhart, and Mark Stone. And, of course, Mitch Marner has killed penalties in the past as well.
But how about, Nikita Kucherov has 49 points in Tampa this year. I know he can't make Team Canada. Braden Point has 21 points.
Well, and Cirelli's not exactly filling up the net either this year. Here's the thing about Point. He is by far the most successful Canadian shootout guy of the lot.
Well,
Here we go.
Then he's got to make the team.
Well, he is
the
21 of 46, 46% in the shootouts in his career. Your top 5 Canadian shootout guys by percentage in their careers: Braden Point, Connor McDavid, Sam Reinhart, Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon. So I would suspect that's your lineup if you're getting into a shootout.
Here's the question to ask about Braden Point. If he had not been put on the original 6 roster of players last, October?
Yeah.
If he was not put on that, would he have made this team?
I don't think so.
Because he was one of the 6 guys that did not get a phone call today. Because they're already on the team.
I think you're absolutely right, John. And I think if it's not him, it's one of Bennett, Konechny, Jarvis, Johnston. There might have been a couple of others. But no, I think he was I think they were premature on him. And so let's hope he doesn't make the big mistake in the big game, because otherwise I think Doug Armstrong and his team are going to have a lot to answer for. Mark Stone is incredibly slow. But holy cow, I'm not sure I've ever seen a player, John, in my years watching hockey, that is that behind on pace and yet so successful on an NHL ice surface. And we mentioned, I suspect he will have a penalty killing role. For some who think the team, because there's a lot of 30-year-olds too. J. Pat and I were talking about that in the first block. There's a lot of length in the tooth here. Could they have done with one less 30-year-old who's perhaps a little behind the pace and brought a younger guy?
Well, your comment about Stone is fair. The one thing I would say is that no one checks better than Mark Stone. Nobody can take the puck away from the opposition with a deft move of his stick better than Mark Stone. And
he is an elite defensive forward and winger. And he might, of the guys on this list, and there's a bunch of great ones, he is right up there in hockey IQ with the best players on this team.
And on top of, and the 2 other things. First of all, I don't think there's any more competitive a person than Mark Stone. Mark Stone celebrates like Alex Ovechkin. Mark Stone, you can see his love of the game and the love of competition. No one with Mark Stone on that roster, no one will be allowed to take a moment off. Mark Stone will keep them in check. And the other thing is this: we talked about John Cooper having an affinity for his own guys. Remember, Bruce Cassidy would have gone to war for Mark Stone to be on this roster and for what Mark Stone offers. And I can guarantee you that would have been a compassionate speech that Cassidy made at that last meeting in Florida that would have put Stone over the top.
And I hear you, John, and I get it. And they should be advocates, and we should rely on their expertise for knowing these players. But please tell me politics did not come into the fray here, right? Please tell.
It's Hockey Canada. Come on.
Please tell me we weren't having assistant coaches say, "Well, we got to take my guy. If we're not taking my guy, then I'm not going to vote to take your guy." Please tell me it did not get to that level.
I don't think there was much. I don't think there was as much politics as people assume, and I'll give you 2 names, because if the politics were truly heavily involved in this, Nick Suzuki and Logan Thompson would not be on the team. You know, the Hockey Canada has been really displeased with Nick Suzuki for the last 3 World Championships where he's turned them down. And yet they still, you know, bit their tongues and picked him for this club. And the same thing with a lot of influence from other people with Logan Thompson. And they said, you know what? We want to win the gold medal. We want the best people. We have to set aside our personal differences and select Logan and select Nick. And I think that tells you that there were a lot less politics involved in this than a lot of us, including me. Because I thought the politics would play a bigger role, particularly for Suzuki, and it didn't in the end.
Yeah. Marvelous stuff, John. Thank you for the time here today. You have a happy new year this evening, and we'll catch up with you on Sekeres and Price in 2026.
Thanks, John.
Happy New Year's, boys.
Sekeres and Price from the Historic Wall Center. This next segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid. This is a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles, offering the best of both worlds. You drive up to 72 kilometers on the battery alone. That's enough to get you downtown to the rink, the grocery store, home to recharge. When you get home, you recharge with a regular plug-in. Seamlessly transitions from the electric mode to gas. Combined range of 962 kilometers. No sacrifices when it comes to horsepower or style. This is a beautiful vehicle. Sleek, low and wide exterior, sophisticated interior, loaded with tech that's easy to use. Actually easy to use. Easy for me to say. And you can also recharge, of course, at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in British Columbia alone. You can lease the 2026 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $109 weekly at 3.99% APR for 64 months with $3,300 down. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer. Here's Patrick Johnston of the Province and Post Media. He's a columnist covering the Vancouver Canucks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys. Good to see you.
And you. Saw you with that Tocchet fellow yesterday. You had a big grin on your face on the side of his scrum.
Yes,
what was going on there? What's the inside joke between the two of you?
I don't actually remember. I think it was probably something along the line. I was asking him about departure and Quinn and all that. And I think it was more just, what is Rick going to say here on the record?
So we talked about it yesterday. Let me throw my theory at you. I think he was caught between a couple of things. I think he's very sensitive to the quitter and quit word.
Yes, sure.
I also think he was fighting his utmost not to dunk on the Canucks and Canucks fans after everything that has taken place. Fair?
Well, fans, I don't know. I mean, it's certainly the element of fans who call him a quitter, sure. And like the fact he had to leave, listen, he really liked this market and he liked the players and he liked the project as it stood in the summer of 2024. And then
he liked the players. He liked the players.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think he liked Elias.
On his own. Listen, I think you can say this much. As part of the construct, he had lots of time for him. As I suspect, as the guy, we heard the frustrations. I mean, Jeff and I were there. We would hear frustrations about practice habits and preparation. And let's think back all the way to this discussion about the knee tendonitis question, right? Like, we know there were frustrations there. That is absolutely clear. But as the sort of construct, I don't know how you ever do it. But I will say there were times where he would just lament the fact that when he showed up, he had Miller, Horvat, and Paterson, right? And that, if you found a way to keep that together, and I don't know how you would have, but if you had been able to find a way to keep that together, he's still here. I just don't have any ifs, ands, or doubts about that, because that's a hell of a team.
It's a hell of a 1-2-3 punch at center ice, that's for sure.
And Petey didn't play in Philly a week ago, but he played last night. I wonder if Rick thinks that he moved his feet enough last night against the Flyers.
Yeah, listen, like the talent was there. The kid can score. right? Like it's all that. We know that he can do certain things. It's just the sort of the overall package has came to frustrate him, and I think that's is one of several reasons that he's not here.
But didn't you always feel like anytime Rick Tocchet said he has to move his feet, like that to me was like Tocchet basically code word for a bunch of things, but it was sort of as far as he ever wanted to go publicly to criticize him. But he mentioned it so many times. I just think it spoke to so many other issues that he saw in Elias Pettersson's game.
Yeah. I just don't think he saw him as a guy that could be the number one. I don't think he had a problem with him as, like I said, as part of the construct, a construct that was working. And, as he brought up when I talked to him 2 weeks ago, he said, listen, could we have put that fire out? I don't know, but maybe we should have tried earlier. So to quote a famous former coach, this is who we have. But I think I do. No, I think at the end of the day, there was a way to make that work. And I think he wanted to make it work. But nonetheless, he thought Quinn was leaving, and he wasn't sure. As I wrote in my column, I don't think he was sure about what the future of management would be. And he took the exit door and landed in a place he's quite happy.
One last Tocchet question for me. It's one of our poll questions we're running today. Did the Canucks miss his coaching?
Yes.
Would they?
Yes. I don't think it's a question. I mean, he is as prepared and as organized a coach as you will ever find. I have said this before, I think, but if I haven't said it here, I'll say it again. I mean, the thing that always stood out to me as a coach was his willingness to acknowledge what he didn't know. And I think there's often coaches that are afraid to say that. I think he got, in the end, last year blew up, and he admitted he overthought how he wanted to change things. But he recognized that the way his team had gone offensively down the stretch going into the playoffs in 24 was not sustainable. They weren't creating enough, and certainly not creating in a way that I think everyone agreed they needed to create more in. So the offensive question is obviously a bit more challenging. The defensive question, I mean, look at the team. The team's a disaster in its own end. And for the most part with him, we're not a disaster in their own end, no matter who they have. So, I think they miss it a lot.
But, and you acknowledge it there. Like, I think it's fair to step back and say, what would Scotty Bowman do with this roster? And so, I'm not disagreeing that they may miss Rick Tocchet, but I just don't know. How would Rick Tocchet squeeze more out of what we're seeing from Brock Besser right now? How would Rick Tocchet, they just scratched Jake DeBrusk. What would Rick Tocchet do with Jake DeBrusk? So,
what is this team with more defensive structure? This team is the 18th best team in the NHL, as opposed to wherever they're. I'm sorry, but where are they sitting? Are they back at 32nd? I mean, where? You know what I mean?
No.
Squeezing more defense out gets you more towards the middle, and so. Yeah, I mean, listen, in the big picture, in sort of the purposes of what this team needs, no, they don't, because they need to lose.
Right. But that's the case now, Patrick. Of course, when the season started, this was hoping to be a playoff competitive club.
Yes.
They're only 6 points out of a playoff spot, despite how bad they've been. Now, yes, there are 7 teams ahead of them to jump, but the question to me is, if Rick Tocchet is the coach as opposed to Adam Foote, are you sitting at, as opposed to 35 points, 38, 39, 40, and right there in the hunt in the wild card?
Yeah. I mean, they're probably still.
I think you can argue they are.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Listen, I went to the Flyers skate yesterday, obviously, to talk to Tocchet, and, but Keith Jones was sitting there in the stands and had a quick chat with him. And he said, listen, this league is so tight, and this is what everybody knows, but this league is so tight. You've got sort of 26 or 25 teams that are kind of in a mess, and you got kind of 4 teams at the top, and then you got 3 or 4 teams at the bottom. You're right. That is that sort of get in the playoffs and anything can happen. Well, I don't think you're winning the Stanley Cup, but you could win a round which has been music to the ears of ownership for a long time.
That's what the Canucks want, Patrick.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's the aim. That's the goal.
And at a certain level coming to the season, that was the mentality. It was like, well, we're close, and we can. Anyway, they're not there. I thought they were going to be closer than they were, but they're not there. And here we are. This team stinks.
They do. We've watched it. We've documented it. And I was thinking, and we hosted RinkWide last night and kind of got to this point that, again, this collection of sort of middle six and bottom six guys continue to do what you want from them. I can't recall, guys, a night where the top six, the supposed top six, was so ineffective.
Invisible.
There have been, Besser's obviously in this just ridiculous slump for him. Petey had the nice goal in Seattle. Big step back last night. Connor Garland into the fight the other night in Seattle. Mm-hmm. One of his worst games of the season. Marco Rossi didn't finish the game, got injured, or at least didn't play the final 8 minutes. Evander Kane, there was some semblance of a fight there, but it wasn't a whole lot. But the guys that we call the top six, completely invisible last night.
Well, yeah, and I mean, go back to you and I were doing RinkWide on Saturday. The thing was just the comparison I think I made, which is look at who's the first line left wing on the Canucks, and that night it was Evander Kane, and look who the first line left wing for San Jose, and it was Eklund. Anyway, it was it was a young, exciting player, and he may be not perfect, and young players make mistakes, but there were things. I mean, listen, I think Evander Kane for. If you're looking for a third line, fourth line winger who's going to sort of make some noise and get involved a little bit and, whatever, that's fine. But he's not a first line left winger. And that is the role he's been cast in. And the rest, I mean, listen, Connor Garland, the thing that fascinates me with Connor Garland is you look how sort of influential he was on Monday night. And here's a guy that Adam Foote said is carrying a couple of injuries. And you're like, well, what could they be? Because they obviously don't affect his hands because he's fighting and creating, scoring chances. And obviously not affecting his, his skating because he's mucking it up in the corners. But it seems, I guess if you're I'm not going to criticize Connor Garland given what he was given this year, but you're almost like, did he empty the gas tank on Monday night and just when he's a damaged product already? But the Besser story, I've become convinced that he's got to be dealing with some kind of injury. And so what are we even doing here? At what point do you just, what point do you just say, okay, enough's enough, go get fixed and we'll plug Niels Höglander in the lineup or whatever? I don't know. The fact that Höglander hasn't been able to do anything in any of his games is very concerning to me. And I guess the comparison with Liam Ogren is obviously now there, where there's a guy who probably is taking his spot. But again, this team stinks. So it's sort of all just shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic, isn't it?
Right. So the memo goes out a month ago. Let's go. Pitter patter. Let's get out of here and let's see some trade activity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. November 24th has been 5 weeks since the memo, which said we're trading UFAs, just not ready to trade our vets. They then turned around and changed to traded a vet, and no UFAs have been dealt.
Yeah, listen, I have every reason to think that those will still happen. Whether it's what they've received as offers to date has not been that enticing, or what have you. It seems ridiculous to think. Is it possible? You and I think, talked about this. Is it possible that 4-game win streak got the owner excited and said, "Whoa, slow down"?
Honestly,
we really need to do this.
I do wonder if Alvin just doesn't parrot, rebuild, retool, whatever Rutherford said, however specifically he phrased it, without those 4 wins. If those 4 wins were the reason why it was going to be retool it a little bit in a hybrid form. Quote, end quote. Let me ask you this question. Drew O'Connor with a goal and an assist last night.
Yeah.
He is now second in Vancouver Canucks goal scoring on the season with 10 goals behind only Kiefer Sherwood, 16 points in 39 games. Playing 13.38 a night, and because of Teddy Bluger's injury, he has been one of their top 4 penalty-killing forwards by ice time.
Yeah.
Is Drew O'Connor part of the solution here, the long-term solution here?
I've really actually enjoyed Drew O'Connor's game. The guy skates hard. The hands are a bonus at this point, I would say, because I don't think any of us thought of him as a guy that's, blessed with a scoring touch. As sort of guys who have the right attitude, as far as we can tell. And certainly I've never had any reason to think he doesn't have the right attitude. Anytime I've ever approached him to talk about anything, he has been open and positive and welcoming. Those are the kinds of guys you do need. I mean, which sounds crazy, right? Because we have to be careful we don't turn into Jim Benning here, right? The difference between Drew O'Connor and Jay Beagle is that Drew O'Connor can play the game. Jay Beagle, they used to say, was great on faceoffs. The problem was he had to do everything else, right? Drew Connor stinks at faceoffs, but he can do most of the rest. So listen, if you get a nice offer for him, I think you should be smart and move on from him. That said, if you don't, I think he's fine to have around for the next little while because he is the kind of guy that will show the younger players, this is how you show up. This is how you come to work every day. This is how you have the right attitude. Those are guys that matter. Those are absolutely guys that matter. And there's a reason why Jim Rutherford got him in Pittsburgh in the first place. And there's a reason why they wanted to bring him in here because they saw him as a useful complementary piece. And he is a useful complementary piece, and he has a great attitude too.
You're not going far enough here. Apparently, he's the key that unlocked the offensive potential of David Kampf. He deserves a raise.
It's incredible performance. Yes, you're right. I'm underselling him. Absolutely. I will send all further inquiries to you, Jeff.
No, I agree with you, Patrick. I think if you could get Drew O'Connor at this level for 3 or 4 years, fine. Like, absolutely no harm in having that sort of player around with, the skill set that he brings. And as you talked about, penalty killing utility. But, if he's having the kind of season that attracts interest from around the league, then yeah, absolutely. I think you have to have those discussions too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, this is where you're at, right? Like, this is not necessarily blow it up, but they got they recognized they needed to move on from their captain, and they got obviously a bunch of offers there. So yes, if other offers come, you don't say no. Like, what are you doing here? You need Jim Rutherford literally has told me. He told me once before he said the word, and then he said it after he said the word, which is they need young guys. They need an army, as I've said, as many have said. This is the task at hand, is not to sit around on veteran players. It is to find a bunch of young guys who, in the end, are going to take you into the new era, and that is what the focus must be. So if you get an offer for Drew O'Connor, and it is one that you think is reasonable, you go and you take it and you move on. Because you will find another Drew O'Connor. There's lots of them out there.
Yeah. You mentioned they traded their captain. You did not name that captain. Of course, we can only assume that's Quinn Hughes. But if speaking of the last 4 years, you would have to be a little more specific because the past captain of the Vancouver Canucks is a Canadian Olympian now.
Yeah. Yes. Tremendous story. I mean, Jeff and I saw so much of it as a guy that did take his game to a new level. It's a bit ironic that was a major criticism of this core, was that they were not finding ways on their own to take their game to a new level. Horvat did, and went and worked hard with Adam Oates, became, if not one of the most adept shot tippers in the NHL. A guy who came to understand how to play in the slot in a way that was a little revolutionary, to be honest. And he's kept going, and he became a great centerman. He worked with Manuel Holter. I mean, I remember my first year on the beat. That was such a story, right? Like, Horvat was going to have to become the face-off guy, and Manuel Holter was the face-off guru on the staff. And they spent so much time. I wrote a really interesting story about how to become better at face-offs. And Horvat took that to heart, and he's become such a key player in New York in a way that he was here. A guy who, you need a big goal, he goes out and gets you one. And Doug Armstrong was asked about that in the press conference this morning, and just said, "Listen, he is of the players we have, he is the best at faceoffs. Like, that is why he's here." And he touched a little bit when I asked him his question about what was the sort of overall question you were trying to answer in putting this team together. Is this the best 25 players, or is this just a collection of guys that you think is going to play against everybody? And he noted how you do have to have some component parts. Now listen, I do not think Bo Horvat is Rob Zaminer, but he is there to be a depth guy who takes big faceoffs. I imagine will have a role on the penalty kill because of those guys in the top 6, for instance. Only Mitch Marner. I'm just telling you.
That's where when Armstrong said, and I agreed with so much of it, a guy who plays inside, okay, one of their best face-off guys, okay. What was left unsaid is that, I mean, he's the best egg of the dozen, right? Like, nobody will be more low maintenance and just be happy to, kind of like Dan Hamhuis in 2014.
Yeah.
Like, you bring him because you know that's just a super quality human being who's not going to cause any fuss.
Yeah.
But then when he talked about his special teams utility on both ends, I went to myself, oh. Bo has trouble killing penalties against NHLers.
Yeah.
Let alone against U.S. or Swedish Olympians.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was looking at this the other day, and
like, if he had turned into a great penalty killer, I think we'd be talking about a player who gets a lot more accolades league-wide.
Yeah.
I mean, he is killing a bunch of penalties for the Islanders this year, but as we know, he just, I don't know if it's the lateral quickness or whatever it is. Like, I mean, he certainly thinks the game okay. At least I've always thought so. But he doesn't. He has not been an effective penalty killer in his career.
No. And a lot of it has been, I think some of it has been, to be in his defense, to have been sort of who he had to play with. But there's like very clear. I mean, look, Tyler Dello. Remember Tyler Dello wrote this is years ago, wrote a great blog post breaking down penalty killing and basically looking at Bo Horvat because he was very interested by Horvat as a player, and that was kind of the thread of us realizing he's not great at penalty killing, and I went and actually looked at this when I wrote a thing about Horvat a couple of weeks ago when it became clear after talking to a few people that he was, I think, a lock at that point, although nobody was saying that. And I looked because I knew he was killing a lot of penalties, and I don't think he's his doors blown off penalty killer like he used to be. Like, he used to be really bad at it. I don't think he's an elite penalty killer, that's for sure. Is he a guy that if you strap Mitch Marner next to him, will he be fine?
Yeah,
probably.
Fair enough.
He'll win you the face-off and you clear the puck, and that's the task, right? Like,
the Islanders' penalty kill is 6th in the National Hockey
League.
League.
So I thought I had it 10th, but
that's the thing.
okay.
And I think the thing to remember is what Armstrong has said, right? Like, they obviously are going to play tough opponents, but not every opponent is tough. Like, it's sort of, and also, like, his point was that there's not a lot of power plays, right? So if they do have, like, that's why Cirelli and Hagel are there, right? Like, they've got guys, we know they're fantastic two-way players already, right? What tasks are being taken on here? And, you've obviously got the start scoring firepower and that's already there, but you did need to think a little bit around the edges and who's going to kill penalties. And Horvat, like I said, he's not a
Stone and Marner for sure.
Yeah. But you've got guys that are there. So,
okay.
He'll take the face-offs and he'll get off. Like, he'll take the face-off and get off. I mean, that was literally what the task for Beagle used to be, right? Like, win the face-off, get off. Somebody else.
Yeah, and as Armstrong note, he is a good face-off man.
Yeah.
Last question for you. One of the daily poll questions we're asking here today. Are the Canucks in a better situation if they choose Horvat over Miller?
Yeah, I mean, this is a question a lot have asked. I don't know. I have a hard time saying yes, and here's why. I'm not a clear no, but I'm also pretty sure I'm not a yes. So I don't know where that leaves me. But JT Miller was such an adept passer. Like, he was the best passer of the forwards here, right? Like, there were plays he would make moving the puck up the ice that always, like, they made me appreciate him in such a way that no other Canuck could do that. Like, Elias Paterson was not that player. Quinn Hughes obviously is an incredible transporter of the puck and puts guys in spots that are amazing and delivers passes that are fantastic. But, like, when Miller hit a pass, it was fantastic. And Horvat's not that guy. So the way he would play in that system was so well attuned. Now, obviously, he was not a great defensive player and was prone to some bonehead choices. But I do not know if his 100-point season that Miller put together, I do not know if that's in Horvat. He was, we saw the goal scoring, right? Like, Horvat was the goal scorer that Miller in many ways is not. But the way Miller helped create players and stuff around him in a way that Horvat just simply doesn't. That's why I'm not I'm not a yes.
That's fair.
I don't think
that's fair.
Right.
I can hear that argument.
No, and all those power play goals in the bumper, a lot of them came from
JT.
JT just finding that seam. And
JT on his worst day was still a more complete offensive player than Bo Horvat was. Bo was a better goal scorer. Bo was a better defensive player, a better face-off man, and of course a better professional as well. Happy New Year to you and Candace and the girls. We thank you for everything, all your contributions here on Sekeres and Price and RinkWide in 2025, and look forward to catching up next week in 2026.
Awesome.
Thanks, Paige.
Yeah, Happy New Year, guys. Take care.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center and the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Lee. Game night, make it a game weekend. Turn that ticket into a downtown getaway with a special Sekeres and Price rate here at the Wall Center. Book now. 604-331-1000. Just say you heard it here. Some blackout dates apply based on availability. A couple of games this weekend. Be the weekend to do it. All right, Seahawks at 49ers Saturday for all the marbles in the NFC. The division title in the NFC West. The conference's top seed, home field advantage throughout the playoffs. The lowest seeded opponent in round 2. Although that may not be an advantage here when you look at the way the bracket is going to shake down, and of course that first round bye, which is probably the most important of them all. And it was noted Sunday, Jeff, during that 49ers Bears shootout on Sunday Night Football. But if all goes right for the 49ers, they do not have to leave San Francisco the rest of the year. They end the season with 2 home games. They would host 2 home games in the postseason, and of course the Super Bowl is right there in their stadium.
Which, an incredible advantage on a lot of levels. Although you think California, much better weather. They've been hit by some miserable weather of late. But I think to underscore that point, the Rams, they run the risk of having to go to Philadelphia, outdoors, East Coast, all that kind of stuff. So even if it's a little rain in the Bay Area, it's a whole bunch of home cooking if the 49ers can get this thing done.
Yeah, and mention the lower seed in the second round. And herein lies the issue, as we were discussing yesterday with Irf, about the way the NFL grants seeding and home games to division winners, even if they happen to be under 500, which could be the case this weekend in the NFC South. But as it stands right now, the Seahawks are the 1 seed. San Francisco's the 5 seed. San Francisco would play Carolina, and this could change, but San Francisco would play Carolina in the first round of the postseason. And so Seahawks have the bye. They wait on the divisional round of the playoffs, wild card weekend to finish. And you could very well be looking at a scenario where, say, the Bears beat Green Bay, Philadelphia beats the Rams, and San Francisco beats Carolina, and then you're hosting San Francisco, right? Yeah. And, of course, there's some flexibility there, like the Rams could jump up. Bottom line is, having the first round bye is a significant advantage. Depending on the way things shake out this weekend and on Wild Card weekend, you may actually be getting a tougher opponent in the divisional round than you otherwise would have because of the way they go about seeding these playoffs. Injury concerns around 4 players for the Seahawks. Left tackle Charles Cross, he's missed the last couple of games. His backup, Josh Jones, Mike McDonald was saying very nice things about the game that Jones has played in Cross's stead. Of course, hadn't started a game for a couple of years, but came in and looked pretty good. Receiver Rashid Shaheed, of course, is trying to get over that concussion, and he's their big play artist. And then safety Kobe Bryant is also hurt. 2 other players for the Seahawks were limited. For San Francisco, some big names here as well. Left tackle, all-world left tackle Trent Williams, and tight end George Kittle. And their head coach, Kyle Shanahan, read between the lines, he almost allowed for the fact they may be scratched this weekend with the long game in mind. Keep them fresh for the playoffs. Both teams know they're going to the playoffs. Of course, you'd love the bye, but they may well be shutting down 2 all-pro players to ensure they are healthy and ready to go for the first playoff game, whenever that may be. Wide receiver Ricky Pearsall, cornerback Upton Stout were both limited at practice. Christian McCaffrey, and he doesn't typically practice the first day of the practice week anyways, J-Pad, but 49ers observers noticed he is listed with an ailment. It's a back injury. Now, he says it's not serious and he's good to go, but this is an off-injured player, and they may not have their star running back at 100%. Quarterbacks, I nearly fell to the floor when I saw this. Quarterbacks with consecutive 13-win seasons.
That's quite a list.
Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre.
Yeah, let's all check out.
Sam Darnold, baby. After he gets to 13 wins with the Vikings last year and again this year with the Seattle Seahawks. One of those things is not like the other, J-Pad. And look, you tell me, how worried should Seahawks fans be about Darnold and the offense? Because they're the second highest scoring team in the NFL. And yet, for those of you who remember Sam Darnold's renaissance in Minnesota last year, and I should say, he won 13 games. He won 14 games last year with Minnesota.
Right. But
it was at the end of the year against Detroit and then in the playoffs with the LA Rams.
So few people remember. I mean, yeah, he had the 14 wins, but it's what have you done for me lately? How did it end? Mm-hmm. Not well. And so, yeah, like he's got some baggage. There's nothing he can do about it except play his way through it. So is there some heat on Sam Darnold? Absolutely there is, as there is on every quarterback come playoff time. But, yeah, this guy's got something to prove. And I think I'm sure he is well aware of the doubters and the fact that history not necessarily on his side, but, hey, that's why you play the game.
Yeah. Seahawks looking to clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC for the first time since 2013, as our old friend Captain Greg Bell always reminds. The 3 times this franchise has gone to the Super Bowl, it's been out of the number 1 seed in the NFC, where the rest of the teams had to come to rainy, damp, cold, miserable Seattle for playoff games in January. Head coach Mike McDonald, and take these with a grain of salt because the NFL has moved to the 17-game schedule, so there's more opportunity. But if he wins Saturday, he sets a franchise record for wins in a season. No Seahawks coach has had 14 wins in this season. He would also hold the record for the most wins by a second-year coach all time. So some milestones or records available to Coach McDonald. Some soccer notes, including a couple of really surprising stories with local clubs. We'll start with the Whitecaps. They are settling a class action lawsuit with fans who held tickets for what was supposed to be Lionel Messi's first game at BC Place in May 2024. You may remember that both Lionel Messi, Suarez did not make the flight to Vancouver, were involved in like videos and social content with youth teams down there in Miami. The Whitecaps had marketed Lionel Messi, had every reason to believe Lionel Messi would play. Alas, Inter Miami did not put him on the longest flight in MLS to come play in that match. 51,000 were disappointed. Some filed a class action lawsuit, and listen to the settlement. It's going to be updates to the Whitecaps ticketing policy stating that the teams and rosters are subject to change. They're going to make a $475,000 charitable donation. The defendant, they'll get together on who gets that money. And the Whitecaps would also seek to have Ticketmaster add a pop-up to its website to inform buyers, quote, to inform buyers that player appearances are not guaranteed. The proposed settlement does not include any kind of financial compensation for the fans. I read this as not enough fine print, Jeff. Remember you used to have the back of a paper ticket with all the, but in an electronic world, I guess not all that messaging is as readily
How did they jam
available.
all those words and letters out of the back of a ticket?
More fine print coming to your e-ticket.
Yeah,
I think I'm very surprised. I thought this had
there's no
zero
guarantee.
chance of going in. Well, I mean, players can get injured, fall ill. It happens all the time. Like I was
Load
always
management and basketball.
exactly. I was always of the opinion that it's a buyer beware thing, right? I mean, look, NFL games this weekend, you're going to have guys rested, right? Anyways, so that's the Whitecaps side of the crazy stories from yesterday or this week. Then there's Vancouver FC. Oh boy. Former head coach Afshin Godby is suing the club's owners, 6-5 Sports Entertainment, for allegedly failing to repay a $500,000 loan plus interest. The story, according to Godby, goes like this. He was approached in July 2023 by Rob Friend and another member of the club's directors who informed them they were having cash flow problems and asked whether he could help financially. He agrees to loan the team $500,000 with a 12% interest calculated daily to be repaid in July 2024. Well, they asked... Yeah.
Carry on. No.
Well, they asked for an extension on that loan, and then he was fired this past July. And people wondered, how did this guy stick around so long? He hadn't won a home game in like a year. Well, when the club's ownership owes you money, or so he alleges, that would be a good reason, J-Pat. So he is seeking $715,000 and change on the loan and calculated interest over the intervening 2.5 years.
Wild stuff. The club needs the coach to front it. $500,000.
I didn't realize Coach had that kind of money laying around. This is not a great look for the CPL.
No.
They've already had to fold a franchise this past season. Forge of Winnipeg is no more. There are some really good things going on with some of the franchises in the CPL. Cavalry FC in Calgary does excellent work. The Hamilton franchise has been pretty good. Atletico Ottawa is doing pretty well, won the championship. Our old friend Vanny Sartini in Halifax, where they've got an excellent fan base and a lot of buzz and culture around the team. There are Pacific FC has done pretty well over on the island since starting up. There are some franchises, though, that are blights on the league right now and are hurting the credibility, and stories like this from Vancouver FC will not help.
Pacific FC, geographically, I get it. I think I can tell. Valor, Forge, Calvary.
Sorry, I said Forge. I meant Valor FC in Winnipeg is the one that's going down. Forge is in Hamilton.
But I'm in the business, and I still I hear those names, and I can't put them attached to a city. It's just, and maybe that's on me, but I don't know. I just I've always had that issue with that league. Mm-hmm. Let's pick some names, some words.
Yeah. It's a new Montreal franchise starting up. It is not called Montreal, just so you know.
Okay.
And
Vanny's in charge of the Wanderers, right?
Vanny is in charge of the Halifax Wanderers. Okay. We had him on the show last week, a couple weeks ago. Canadian international news. Orlando City will be signing ex-Caps keeper Maxime Crépeau, who is out in Portland, as their new goalkeeper. And so you have a battle of Canadian goalkeepers for potentially the starting gig here at the World Cup going on down in the state of Florida this season. Because, of course, Dane St. Clair, the MLS goalkeeper of the year, has moved from Minnesota to Miami to join Messi and his lot of South American stars. And now you got Crépeau up the highway in Orlando. There are other guys who are in the mix, but, of course, Crépeau has been the starter for Canada. St. Clair has been the up-and-comer who's been pushing for work. We will see how that goes. And then, Jeff, I was yesterday years old when I discovered that 3 of the legendary athletes in golf, basketball, and baseball all share the same birthday, December 30th.
Well, I knew Tiger and LeBron did.
I knew Tiger was right at the end of the year. I did not realize that Sandy Koufax, the Hall of Fame lefty of the Los Angeles Dodgers, also shares that birthday. And happy 90th
And
to
still looking
Koufax.
good and around the
He
ballpark.
really
through-
does.
I mean, how many times
No,
do we see him in the World
absolutely.
Series there?
Outstanding. Of course, ended his career prematurely because he was told, you keep pitching, you may lose the use of your left arm for the rest of your life. Incredible. Cy Young's no-hitters, everything for Koufax. Happy 50th to Tiger. Oh, my God, Jeff, are we getting old? Tiger Woods is 50.
And Sandy Koufax's body's probably in better shape than Tiger's with a 40-year head start.
I can remember when Gretzky hit 40 and 50, and like my parents were like, oh, my God, I can't believe the kid from Edmonton is 40 and 50. I sort of feel the same way about Tiger. I mean, he's a peer. We're a year apart. I always thought, Tiger. And then LeBron, 41 years old. Tiger, of course, arguably the greatest golfer of all time. LeBron, best basketball player of the 21st century. Bob Ryan, the legendary sports writer, wants to know. He says, I'm not into astrology, but I'd like to hear what some student of the stars could tell me about this phenomenon on December 30th.
Did you spend any time around Tiger at all? Oh, my mic.
No, that's more problem.
Have you had a chance to spend any time around Tiger?
So I've seen him play live twice. Once at Canadian Open, Royal Montreal, way back when. Once at the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines in 2019. In fact, Carmen and I were lucky enough to be behind the second green at Torrey Pines when he nearly holed out in the final round. And had a very brief interaction with him because, he walked up to the rope and said that ball looked like it went down. And everybody said to him, Tiger, that ball went down and popped out of the cup. And so that was kind of cool to hear him interact with the gallery because, Jeff, the first time I followed him at Royal Montreal, there was not even a single look at the gallery. It was Stevie Williams yelling at everybody, and that it was that sort of gruff, very inaccessible Tiger. And then once upon a time, he was doing a photo shoot or filming a commercial in suburban Toronto, and I was on the stakeout team of all the press that was several hundred yards away and not really able to catch more than a glimpse of Tiger.
One of the most random things I've done professionally was cover the Byron Nelson Classic in Dallas in 2000, a month before he lapped the field at Pebble in the U.S. Open. Yep. So he was at the height of his superpowers, a month out. Matt, one of, if not the biggest media scrums, and they did it as a scrum just off the putting green.
Oh, my gosh.
And at that point, it was news, it was sports, it was entertainment. Tonight was following him.
Everybody.
It was local, it was national, it was international. It was a mob scene, and I was in the middle of it somehow. It was unbelievable. And then to think, and he didn't win that week, but a month later, won the U.S. Open by 15 at Pebble Beach.
Yeah, I had one interaction with LeBron at the Olympics in 2008 in China, and I got to say, back then at the very least, and frankly, to this day, based on what I can observe, LeBron was incredibly professional. He was cordial. He sat there and answered all questions. There was a ton of international media with a ton of sort of questions that you wouldn't typically get on the NBA road. I thought he conducted himself with incredible class and dignity. The one thing about LeBron is, sometimes, Jeff, it just comes down to, do you like the attention or not? Mm-hmm. And LeBron likes the attention. Tiger, I never felt liked the attention, or at least liked it a whole lot less.
Depends what kind of attention we're talking about, Matt.
Early, some stories came up about Tiger. He really disliked the attention thereafter. All right, results of the daily poll question from Tuesday. We asked you, if you were in Rick Tocchet's skates, would you have left? Yes or no? What did the people say, Jeff?
Oh, I think they said yes.
Yes, they said yes. Percentage?
62?
79.
Ooh.
Scott says no, but only because I'm such a pathetically loyal Canucks fan, I wouldn't be able to bring myself to leave. Good honesty, Scott. Chief says he saw the entire clown show operation inside the room. An organization decided to leave for probably more money in a city he's had a lot of success in. Sounds like an easy decision for anyone. Canadian Hustler says no because of everything he said when he was here. Yes, he did not embrace the hard that is the Vancouver Canucks this season. And Buray's Flow says bleakest future in the league easy decision. Errors and omissions from yesterday's program, and put myself down for 2, and then one I forget who mentioned it, but we'll get it cleared up. I said there's a roster freeze coming up for the Four Nations. It is, of course, for the Olympics. We were talking about Burnaby's Nico Segur and how there's interest from Premiership side Wolves, and I said the only problem is Wolves is horrible, just 2 draws in 18 games, no wins this year. Well, they went out and got a 3rd draw against once mighty Man United yesterday, so congratulations to Wolves. They got a winnable game against West Ham on the weekend. And Yumi and Irf were talking about making room up in the NHL lineup at forward. We mentioned Jonathan Lekramacky. He did miss Abbotsford's last game.
Yeah, he's hurt right now.
Dollywall said it's a lingering injury. Abbotsford plays again tonight. I'm not sure of Lekramacky's status, so at least in the given moment, you wouldn't be making room for Lekramacky.
No, but big picture.
Yeah, big picture. He's unable to play, or at least he was unable to play a couple of nights ago. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time and connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky. We are off for the next couple of days. We will be back on Monday. Blake Price will be back on Monday. J-Pat, thanks for filling in
How come
today.
we didn't have noisemakers and funny hats here for the final segment of...
we're just not as festive on New Year's as we are on Christmas, Jeff. Right. But Happy New Year to you and Shannon and Caitlin, Ryan, the Paterson family, and, of course, to all of you. We appreciate you spending some time with us and checking in on the show. Please do have a Merry, Merry New Year's, a safe one as well, and keep it local.